Welcome to our latest edition of our English language video podcast, where we get to know a little bit about the personalities and the projects that are happening at the U.S. Embassy in Jordan. My latest guest, or my current guest, is Lieutenant Commander David Bruce. David is here on assignment to help manage our diplomatic relationship with the Jordanian Armed Forces, especially the Navy, which makes sense because he's an accomplished Navy officer. But I got to be honest, we're not here to talk about your day job. We're here to talk about your passion, and that's art. So welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Dan. It's a real privilege to be here. Not just in the U.S. Embassy, but in Jordan.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. So you have this special talent. You went to school to study geology, but it turns out that you have a second, a major or a minor in art. And you specialize in a particular type of art. Could you maybe tell us a little bit about that?
I will, Dan. Thank you. It's a hard subject for me to approach sometimes because I worked in the oil fields, and before that I grew up in a gallery. Both my parents were artists. So somewhere along the line of development, I acquired an eye for seeing things differently slightly, whether it be compositions or whether it be contrast, whether it be just imagery. I discovered that I had an ability to put that into a two-dimensional arrangement. Paintings, I do think in terms of sculpture. I do think in terms of motion, film, but paintings, they're definitely a passion. So lucky because both my parents were very accomplished painters. They met at a workshop for painting, and my mom continued on with a gallery and restored paintings and was an appraiser and taught. And my dad stopped, so he stopped painting, and I think that's why I picked it up. At some point, I learned that he had stopped, and I looked at his paintings. His paintings were fantastic. I think when I show my paintings and people see his paintings alongside, they say, "Wow, who's this guy?" And my dad was that good, but he was a scientist, a physicist. He supported the Navy, and he stopped. It's hard. It's hard to continue painting, but he just put the brush down, and so I feel as if, and I always wondered what else remained? What else could he have done? He was held in high regard with his contemporary successful painters, and he just curtailed. So I've been fortunate to get a degree in painting. It was a minor alongside my geology, and I thank the Navy for that because it was after my experience, 7 years enlisted, that I acquired tuition assistance and discovered painting. I just took weekend classes and realized I could do it. I wound up on the dean's list, and I think the teachers that worked with me, they would put my paintings aside, my drawings, and it was just good fortune.
Well, we have got to get to the art because part of this I think it speaks for itself in its own way. So we're looking at the first piece that we're going to profile that you've worked on while you've been here in Jordan, and I think it does a really nice job of showing your different personalities or the different parts of your identity. A geologist, an artist, and then somebody with an eye for motion and movement. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about where this painting comes from and how you put it together.
Thank you, Dan. What a privilege to be able to experience Jordan's Petra. It's a bucket list item for many in the world. It's a revered destination, and so privileged to have been able to journey through the geologic history and through the archaeological history, and to be exposed to an active Bedouin. And so this painting represents an encounter with my eyes wide open right in front of the treasury. However, this image, really this painting is a result of several different photographs. One of the Bedouin on top of the camel, and really maneuvering with a lot of people around. And then separately, I had a photograph of the treasury. So I superimposed, and so I drew one element of it and then the other element. And fortunately, they work well together. The colors, the natural colors, I just chased the vibrancy of the cloth, the energy and strength of this camel driver, this unique entrepreneur who's got an active life down there, and how many people have seen him. So it was just an honor to be able to capture him with a photograph, but to be able to do him with oil, an oil paint on canvas, just recently framed, and just thrilled to be able to complete that.
I mean, for those of us who get to live in Jordan just for a little while, getting to go back again and again to the archaeological treasures like Petra it's one of the great rewards of our time in the country. And anybody who's been there looks at this picture and doesn't just see it as something that they remember, but they also feel it and remember the kind of the activity and the emotion of the whole thing. So I think it's a great photograph or it's a great painting for us to lead off with. I wanted to switch to the second two that we have together, and as we transition to that, I thought it might be useful to talk a little bit about what it was like to study geology at the same time as painting. And I say that because a lot of our Jordanian audience, don't come from a tradition where you might have very different kinds of scholarly pursuits that you go at the same time. But that's not uncommon in the U.S. I mean, geology and art is somewhat distant, but it's something that we sort of embrace as part of our sense of being a well-rounded college graduate. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about how art influenced your geology, or maybe how geology influenced your art.
Wow, that's interesting, because they really are hemispherically separate in terms of how the brain works. I think I work more from my right brain, my creative side. And yet, because my dad was a physicist, and I was in a competitive environment for education, I needed to finish my degree. I needed something that would rate, I guess. And geology was fascinating to me. I worked in the oil fields and discovered the reality of rock at depth and the history of our world. And I just became fascinated with the reality of our geologic history. And so I don't know that there's a real parallel between the two. Geology, I had to finish my geology degree, which I had started earlier after working in the oil fields. But the art was just happened by chance. I needed to complete 30 credits for my degree. And so I needed to start something. And I started drawing on the weekend with a set of headphones on and a lot of coffee. And I discovered that I could complete a painting or drawing. I could make best use of my 8-hour day and really focus and really lose track of time and accomplish something. And I think that's what has led me to really be challenged by paintings, because they do become a lasting legacy if they're completed properly, if they're looked at, if they're recognized as having been produced academically, as opposed to, there's a big argument between academic art and contemporary art. Contemporary art can still be academic, yet much of it is cast off as perhaps the material arriving and then the subject being created afterwards. Whereas in academic art, you really try to pursue the perspective and contrast and tone and value and composition. All those things are important, and they therefore fall into the category of academics. So it was just unique that I was able to paint in an academic manner. And I had parents that looked at my art, and they were tough. My mom would. It's a great thing to have a critic, no matter what, in whatever field you are, to get the feedback. And my mom was, she passed in 2017, but she was really a fantastic critic. She would just look at the piece and give it to you. Nah, that's too dark, or why no contrast? So art, it really is a working project. Process. It's a working process. It's art is not just always a gleeful experience. It's hard. There's a lot of anxiety. You have to really picture your solution before it happens, and if you're lucky, you arrive at it.
When we look at these next two paintings that are side by side on our visual here, I was really struck by these because you're talking about the precision and the discipline and the technique that you have to learn in order to be able to pull out some really powerful emotional images or ideas. And in both of these, again, if you've been in Jordan, you see these and you're like, I know where that dog's from, and I've seen these goats before. But it's also the sense about, and we were talking about this a little bit before the recording, about what these animals represent. So maybe you could offer a couple of comments on that.
Thank you. It's my experience in Jordan has been such a privilege to be able to go north and south and really meet so many fine people. It's one of the things I'll take away from my experience here in Jordan is the people. However, I've also encountered animals, and in the case of this lone dog at Petra, this guy is just a noble, studly dog who was in command of his space. Yet these creatures have to fight every day, and so I just really looked up to him. And the goats are so fun. There's so much character. They really are a big part of the backdrop here in Jordan. And so there's almost a personality in each one of the ones here. And that painting is really just an extraction from a more distant photo I took of a whole herd. But these four were cruising along, and so. It was just a lot of fun to get these completed, and they're finally framed thanks to a great framer here in Jordan.
Well, let's turn to the last photograph or the last painting, excuse me, which is really just you look at this last one and you can see it, and it's one of those visual images that for me it's something that I would have walked by and it would have hit me, and I wouldn't have been able to do anything close to what you've done here in capturing all of the emotions that are coming out of it. So maybe just give us a little background about what this scene is, and then and why you focused on it, and maybe what it represents to you about your relationship with Jordan too.
I appreciate your recognizing the moment there, which for me never would have happened had I not really pursued my education, become an officer in the Navy, and been privileged to come through Navy Central Command, come to the U.S. Embassy as a liaison Navy officer, to work in this office, and then to be entrusted to work with the Jordanian Armed Forces and the Royal Jordanian Navy. I have a strong passion for the men and the individuals that are working in concert with allied entities, including the U.S., especially, obviously, the U.S. This is a ship that came in, part of the Marine Expeditionary Unit. One of the ships, there are multiple ships that have come into the Gulf of Aqaba, and my gosh, to be able to spend time in Aqaba has been just amazing honor and pleasure. this obviously, I mean, in the distance, there's Sinai. So there's a body of water here. There's a Navy ship. This is a Marine pilot, and he's, it's a wistful moment. He's either gathering thoughts about his family, or even the nature of the environment, the hostility of the heat, the depth of the water in the Gulf, the beauty of the water in the Gulf. There's so many moments. So I was just lucky to grab the photo, and I think anybody who's around me sees that I take a lot of photos. So maybe out of 100 photos, 10 are potential for painting, but 1 or 2 are going to be fine. And so this was an extraction of that moment. I just got lucky capturing this officer, and just wonderful to be able to complete that. It took some time to balance the elements, and it just is a real pleasure to have been able to complete it here. I think I have to mention that with my mask off here during COVID, it's been crazy 5 months for many people here, and but it's been an opportunity for me to be able to paint, to take this imagery and look at it in a way that I can create lasting original paintings.
Well, and so I understand your time in Jordan is coming to an end, at least in this assignment. Maybe you'll get to come back and visit. I hope so, inshallah. But you've also got some plans to put some of your work out in exhibitions and galleries in the United States, which just pleases me, because it'll give an opportunity for folks in the U.S. who may not have traveled to Jordan just to get a picture of the kind of Jordan that I know that a lot of us see and remember and love. So we really commend you for your work, and we're glad that you got some painting done during COVID. So the more beautiful images of Jordan to share with our American friends. But I'm going to close now with just a last question, maybe the toughest question. Maybe it's impossible. I don't know. But what, with all of your talent and energy that you've put into your art, what have you not been able to capture that about your time in Jordan that stays with you in your memories?
What have I not been able to capture? Well, clearly there is something that is felt here in Jordan. It's the way people embrace foreigners, each other. There's a real kindness, and it's very deep seated, and so I've just been able to discover how wonderful Jordanian people are. That's something I don't know if I could capture. I'd love to do more portraits. I'd love to do more portraits. I'm exposed to many people down on the boulevard, and there's just so many beautiful people that would become wonderful paintings. And so that's I think there's an overall Mideastern feel that I'm yet to capture in a painting, and it has much to do with the culture, it's much to do with the region, the history, the kindness. There are, I would just like to see more art recognized in Jordan. There's some wonderful galleries. There's a gallery right down next to the boulevard, the corner, and they have wonderful paintings. It's wonderful to be able to go into to see great work hung well in a space that's dedicated to art. And so I think that's where I feel that's where some of my passion presides, just in the representation of fine art. And if I can accomplish a piece that's considered fine art, then I guess I would say I've found some success.
Well, I would say, as Bilarabi Bianchek, you've totally done it. So these are wonderful pieces of art, and thank you for sharing your art and your story with us. And we'll look forward to you coming back to Jordan and seeing some of your art hanging here.
Oh, I would be privileged. I must thank the embassy, the State Department, the people of Jordan, and of course the office where I work. It's just been a wonderful experience. And thank you for your time to have me in today. It's just it's been a great morning.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure.